Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome. My name is Georgia and this is Georgia Unplugged. I have my tea. I've drunk half of it actually already, setting up my camera, and today is Valentine's Day. And I guess it's a good day to talk about love and loving other people, because it's feeling quite polarized at the moment. Yesterday there was an incident in Munich, where I live, where a 24-year-old Afghan asylum seeker drove a Mini into a crowd of protesters. The protesters were just a union demonstrating for better working conditions in hospitals and like kindergarten teachers. So some of them were walking with children, and this immigrant, he had a Mini that he drove past the police. There's always police accompanying at the front and the back of these demonstrations. Drove past the police car at the back and ploughed into the crowd. Now, as of speaking today, almost exactly 24 hours later, no one has died, only very, very badly injured, which is, possibly life-changing injuries. Also, I think a child had to be reanimated, but it was all a little bit chaos yesterday in the city. It's not a huge city, so the ripples can be felt sort of out here where we live in the suburbs. And it's not too far from my office, but I wasn't at the office yesterday, I was at home. But still, it's not great. It's not great for the man who did it. They arrested him and he's in police custody now. First of all, what drives someone to do that at only 24? The fact he's come from Afghanistan is in itself a telling sign, because we all know what a state that country is in and how terrible for women's rights and basically even men's rights. I know women's rights are obviously much worse there, but the men who don't comply also don't fare well. There are many Afghanistani immigrants all around the world, obviously for this reason. He was known to the police as a petty criminal and thief, I think some drug offences, but they couldn't send him back because he was on this list. About 100,000 people have that here in Germany, where they can't send them back because they know it would be basically a death sentence for him. So even though he wasn't granted asylum in Germany for whatever reason, he still wasn't sent back out of compassionate reasons, I suppose. But this doesn't help the situation at all. We have elections a week on Sunday, the 23rd of February. It's quite a snap election because the coalition dissolved last year. It just collapsed, the ruling party, who I've heard from other Germans basically not doing a great job. I'm not massively into politics anymore or the news. I actually stopped watching the news or listening to it just around Brexit and Trump coming to power the first time. Or being elected the first time, sorry, slip there. Although my husband watches everything avidly, so I hear stuff from him, things trickle down anyway. So I'm not really up to date, especially with German politics. I do know who to vote for. I have strong feelings about that. I think it might maybe tactical voting, but I don't think that would work anyway. But basically the party in charge at the moment is SPD, and they had a coalition because they didn't have enough votes. They're more like slightly left wing, but everyone's quite centre really. Well, not everyone, getting to that point. They're quite left wing, and the CDU, which is the right wing party, is due to get in power. That's what they're predicting at the moment. It's the CDU, the Christian Democrat Union, so they're religion based, which in itself is not a great thing, but they've been in power on and off for years and years. You can compare them with Conservative Party in the UK and Labour with the SPD. Now they're called the CSU in Bavaria, Christian Socialist Union, gosh I don't even know, but it's essentially the same party. So CDU, CSU will most likely win, and Friedrich Merz, who will then be the Chancellor, he's famously against loosening any kind of abortion laws. Abortion is actually illegal in Germany, or no, it's not illegal. It's not being decriminalised, something like that. I've luckily never had to have it, but you can have one going to a doctor, but they could change the laws if they wanted to quite easily and restrict it more. But that aside, he also, back in the 90s, I think, he voted against making rape in marriage illegal. And he's said since then, I regret these words, or this vote, I wish I'd voted otherwise, but it's there, you know, and he's very quite staunch right wing for the CDU even, I think. But he'll become a new leader, most likely, which is better than other alternatives, which is the AFD, which is leader Alice Weidel, and I know Elon Musk has supported her. AFD means Alternative für Deutschland, so the alternative for Germany. They're really strong anti-immigration. They had secret meetings 2023, I think, in Potsdam, even with some members of the CDU, about if they got to power, how they would deport hundreds of thousands of people, like harshly, kind of the way Trump's planning to do it. I mean, really, it's just horrendous. But with Germany's history, it's actually even more interesting because this is history repeating itself. Who they're targeting, why they're targeting them, and it's the age-old, every country, I mean, we've seen it just across the world now. It's always the foreigners, it's always the immigrants, it's always those people. They're the cause of our trouble, they're the cause of our financial troubles, they're the cause of the collapse of our economy, they're the cause of blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah, whatever. Right, now I'm an immigrant in Germany. I was born here, I grew up here, went back to England, spent my formative years there, came back with my job, eventually got my passport 4 years ago, but I was always British. I feel very British to the core. Both my kids also have dual nationality. My husband doesn't. He has to have a special Brexit pass. If the police stop him, he has to show it to them. They haven't yet because he's white, of course, you know. White people are different. That's what one of our friends, or so-called friends, says, who has voted for the AFD. Well, he's no friend of mine, but my husband meets up with him maybe once a year on his birthday. And he used to be very left-wing, you know. I don't know what happens. His life hasn't gone as he planned, and he blames basically the foreigners. It's back to that again. And so this attack yesterday is actually strengthening the right-wing populist movements. I mean, really, the AFD just probably loved it, and off she went. She had a little press conference yesterday and saying, oh, this is why we need to close our borders and deport all these people who are danger to us. And it doesn't help that a month ago in January there was an attack in, I think, Aschaffenburg, also in Bavaria, where I think he might have been Afghan as well. Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good, right? He attacked a kindergarten with a knife, and he stabbed and killed a child and a man trying to stop him. And then back in December, there was this car also driven by an immigrant. This is unfortunately the pattern that's happening. Asylum seekers who either denied asylum or for some reason, I don't know the reason. I haven't looked into it too much because it just stresses me out and it doesn't benefit anyone except making me really anxious. He drove into a Christmas market in Marburg. I remember seeing the footage online. I think it was CCTV or just someone from a church spy maybe. You could see the car just shot through the people and just kept going round the block. Just horrendous. I can't remember how many people died, but it was just really, really bad. And with each one of these incidents, the far right gets stronger. I mean, this is what Hitler, that's how he started, you know, his thing. I did my university thesis on the Nazi propaganda machine and how powerful it was and how it became so strong in the first place. And it all goes back to the First World War, after which the Germans had to pay reparations for causing or starting the First World War. It was kind of tricky who really started it, right? Killing of Prince Ferdinand, but ultimately the Germans were held responsible for a lot of it, had to pay reparations. The country was crippled financially, just economically, and in every way. So many people had died in the First World War. I mean, it was a tragedy for all of Europe. And this is how the far right rose, because people were angry. They spent their 20s. The 1920s were an absolute disaster for Germany, very much like the rest of the world, but they had it really bad. So when, you know, we call him Mr. Grumpy, because he was always grumpy. So when Hitler came to power in 1933, you know, he tried to, a few years beforehand, tried to assassinate the Chancellor, got sent to jail, wrote his book. We all know about that. And if not, then you should read about it, because everyone needs to know this. And the people loved him, the people supported him in 33, but then slowly he eroded all human rights. And apparently, and because, you know, Trump is trying to basically dismantle the American government, the US government, just dismantle everything, and he's doing it very quickly. I think Hitler and his team did it in 50 days. think they dismantled the German government in 50 days. That's all it took them. So you're talking less than 2 months. So, you know, we don't want history repeating itself, but we've got so many people in this country who really are looking to vote for the AFD. In the last elections, the AFD got 76 seats in the parliament of 733. That's more than 10%, which in my mind, honestly, is terrifying. And even though I know I wouldn't be personally affected as an immigrant to be deported, and it's not about that, it's about everyone. You know, it's about keeping the country a safe place, a safe space where everyone is welcome, you know, people pay tax. It's hard. 10 years ago, Angela Merkel, who was the chancellor back then, she let in loads of immigrants. She let in mostly Syrians, not from Afghanistan, but it was the Syria issue back then. And about 1 million people came to Germany, I think. And she just famously said, "Ach, wir schaffen das, you know, we'll manage it." And people do say it was her worst mistake, that she shouldn't have let that many people in. I remember we lived close to the train station then, and loads of trains were just coming in every day. Special trains they put on for people to come to Munich, as well as lots of other cities, but it was quite a central hub. And people were welcoming them with bottles of water and blankets and clothing and toys for kids, and it was heartwarming and just wonderful to see this. And a lot of these same people are now turning around going, now what? What are these foreigners doing here? They need to leave. I'm going to vote for the AFD. You know, it changes so quickly. Just like a lot of, was it something like 20% of people who voted twice for Obama also voted twice for Trump. So you get people that switch just like that. I'm not one to switch. I have voted for different parties, but not quite so opposite end of the spectrum. I mean, it's terrifying. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in the election. You know, the AFD will get some seats, obviously. We don't want them to be forming a coalition with the government. And the CDU already being right-wing and will like to form a coalition with them, even though they said they haven't. About 3 weeks ago, they had to pass through an immigration law, or they wanted to pass through an immigration law, but the only way they could do this was to basically side with the AFD, get the AFD on board and say, will you push this through for us? And they did. And a lot of people were not happy about it. And actually the CDU has now lost some of its rankings in the polls. As of yesterday, the CDU was on 29%, the AFD was on 16%, I think, and then the Green Party and the SPD on 13 and 12%, something like that. So the AFD is second at the moment, and it'll increase. After yesterday, it'll go up again. A lot of people who are maybe on the fence will say, right, that's it, 3 months, something has to change. And, it has to change. I mean, why are these people doing this? He was known to the police. They were all known to the police, I think, the people that happened. Is it more an issue in the country? Are the police not dealing with it? Should they be deported, even if it's a death sentence? I don't know. I'm not the one to make these decisions, luckily. I just know it's not working. So, something needs to be done. And even about 2 weeks ago, my daughter watched a short documentary about the Holocaust for Holocaust Memorial Day, because it was 80 years, 80th anniversaries of Auschwitz, was the freeing of Auschwitz, I think, something like that. And apparently they questioned people in Germany, and like 20-30% didn't know about the Holocaust, didn't know about concentration camps, which is insane, because according to our AFD friend, he's my age, who went to school here, obviously he's German, he always said this, they rammed it down our throats. He always said that everyone got taught about the Holocaust. Our train, one of our trains goes to Dachau, like a final destination. It's on the Munich subway map, or above going train. My brother was born in Dachau. We lived close to there as a kid. That was the closest town with a hospital. And all the friends from our village who lived there, their parents went all the way to Munich to have their babies, so they didn't have Dachau in their passports. Back in 1980 that was. So it was a big deal back then, and it should still be kind of a big deal now. So she watched this documentary about the Holocaust. I have told them about it before. I went to Auschwitz in 1997 when I was in Germany for a year, went to Poland travelling, and I've been to Dachau as well. Everyone should go and see the concentration camps. Everyone should see, the gas chamber doors, thick wooden doors. You can see nail marks on the doors as people scrape to try and get out. It's terrifying. Even now I'm a bit choked up just talking about it because it's such a horrible experience. But we need to go through it. Everyone needs to know about it so we can stop this happening again. And I see what's happening in the world. I see what's happening in America, and it's terrifying. Women's rights being eroded, gay, lesbian, trans, all these people's rights all being eroded, not even just taken away, but they're now being vilified, and basically they can be attacked and nothing will be done for it. It's a scary world. We're lucky we live in quite a safe city, yesterday aside, and there was a shooting, 12 years ago or something, so it's, not on a daily basis, but it does get a bit scary. And the funny thing is, not funny, haha, but when my daughter was going to watch this it's a documentary, it was a 10-minute film for kids, and the teacher sent a message out the previous day and said, we're planning to watch this, there'll be nothing shocking for the kids, it's just an information thing made for children. Do you give permission for your child to watch this? And I was shocked that they had to ask parents permission. There was nothing shocking. My daughter came back going, yeah, it's everything you told me. And that was that. They're 9 or 10, these kids, they understand. So they're still very, very here. And you're not allowed to do things like the Nazi salute. You can get up to 3 years in prison for doing that. Musk, come over here and try that because it's not allowed for a reason. You go up to Schellingstrasse where the university is. There's a wall with plexiglass, a brick wall, plexiglass over bullet holes. And they're still there, they haven't fixed it, to make people remember these are bullet holes from the battles when the Allies came to save the city and to basically, hopefully end the war. But anyway, solemnness. I'm sorry this is so solemn, but yesterday was quite a rough day for the city. But just one final thought was interesting how all these leaders in the European far-right parties, that they all seem to be women. And I wonder why. I was wondering, is it because it seems better for the party? Because they've mostly been patriarchal parties, or the right-wing ones are mostly men. Is it because they think it's good that a woman should lead them? Or is it just because the women have much stronger feelings, somehow they just have the leadership qualities to become the leaders? So I looked this up, and here's a list of all the leaders. I've got them here. First of all, we've got Marine Le Pen, obviously, in France. She's been going for years after her dad died as well. She's so unpleasant. And she got loads of women to take part in the yellow jacket demonstrations they had against the government. Lots of French women as well. It's not just the leaders, but the women are rising up with the men. Because there's ongoing just the disparity between the genders, but also between the classes, the money. The women are feeling like they're missing out as well. You've got obviously Giorgia Meloni. She's the leader of the Brothers of Italy in Italy. Kind of ironic, it's called Brothers of Italy, right? Sisters of Italy? Siblings of Italy. She's really unpleasant as well. She's just horrible, and she's got a massive female following. She's quite glamorous, Italian glamorous, but she does have a big female following. It's scary. And then I have someone called Pia Kjærsgaard. She is the leader of the Danish anti-immigration party. I know they have problems in the Nordic countries with immigration. They're a whole different level up there. I know there was that shooting on that island as well, and radicalised people and issues, but I won't talk about that because I really haven't done any research. Also Norway, Siv Jensen. She was the leader of the Anti-Immigration Progress Party from 2006 to 2021. And then she left that party and became the Minister of Finance in the Solberg cabinet from 2013. Wait, no, she must have been in there. 2013 to 2020. So she was still in the party. Obviously, she was elected and she became a part of the cabinet. So a bit scary. I don't think she is in government anymore. And then obviously there's Alice Weidel, who is the head of the AFD, the German party. She's been head for quite a few years actually. She's just, I don't know, there's something very cold and horrible about her. Just I don't know, she's blonde. It's just a typical blonde thing they have going on. It's still a thing, you know. It's just, I don't know, I just don't get it. I've spent so much of my life in Germany and I just don't understand this whole part of it. Now the reason is interesting. The reason a lot of women are joining these parties and rising up, not just leading them, but really rising up with them, is they're feeling like they're also not equal to the rest of the world, the rest of the country. Mostly it was men, like I said, who were in the far right parties, because it was often manual labour people who lost out initially. Anything goes wrong, it starts at the bottom. The people suffer the most. That's where the cuts are always made. You know, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and they're the ones that are more likely to vote far right. And there is a definite, there's a level of education and voting far right. So higher education, the more left you tend to be. But, you know, not everyone statistically, this is what the fact is. But you've got the men who work in manual labour, the factories, the bricklayers, the carpenters, very skilled jobs also. It's not always unskilled jobs, you can be skilled jobs, but you're not white collar, maybe even blue collar workers, some of them. And the women, now you do have a lot more working women, it's the ones in the service industry. So you've got the women who work in supermarkets, who work in kindergartens, let's say, those who are on minimum wage, who also really feel the pinch. And these are the ones who, this sounds awful, I don't want to sound anyway elitist, because I'm not at all. You know, my husband delivers drinks for a living, part-time. We're not high elitist. But the women who often aren't that well educated, you know, get married young, have kids, will then get a job in a supermarket, for example, or maybe as a chambermaid part-time, hours that work around their childcare, and they haven't got a university degree, for example. These are the people that the right-wing people also aim for. You know, Trump massively, his MAGA base is mostly the manual labour people of the States. And it's the same in all the other countries. Same in England. I mean, I haven't even mentioned Brexit. I mean, Brexit is a perfect example. And that awful Nigel Farage, who just messed, I mean, it's awful. The country's a mess. The UK is a complete mess. You know, Brexit was a disaster. And we're paying for it. I mean, we're paying for it in every way now. You know, my phone bill was astronomical last month, calling my mum because we'd no longer have free calls between mobile networks or even to landlines because of Brexit. You know, I can't get cheap tea bags. I know it's a first world problem, but this is just a tiny scratch on the problems Brexit has caused. And it was voted for by the base people who thought it was about immigration. And then afterwards they went, oh, what do you mean you're not deporting all the dark-skinned people? What, you're taking away my, what? You know, just like the people in the States now, it's just the people that don't do their research and that just believe what people tell them. Like these populist politicians are so dangerous, they're so dangerous. And I wish people would wake up and just, you know, don't just follow one. I don't just read The Guardian or the BBC, or especially not the BBC, or whatever. I read across the board, if I do read it. And then I make my own decisions. But like I said, I honestly don't really follow the news anymore. I used to listen to BBC Radio 4 every morning, and I just turned it off. I listen to the Archers now, only really. Sometimes Women's Hour, but even that got too political. It's just, I can't handle it. And I need to just handle my mental self and deal with my life and get through it without the external stress. You know, it's a way to control people, a way to keep them in fear and stressed and not get on with their own lives. So I've definitely benefited. Not watching the news is good. So, you know, if you're all highly stressed because of it, stop watching the news, stop listening to the news, don't read the news. You don't need it. There's no FOMO with it. You don't need to know it. If you have someone who'll give you tidbits, that's fine. Get an email summary once a week from your favourite paper, that's fine. Don't have alerts on your phone that constantly tell you the news. This has happened, shooting here, shooting there, missing this, blah, blah. Just don't do it. If you can't change it and it doesn't benefit you from a day-to-day basis, just step away from it. Just step away and then just breathe. Because when we can breathe and when we can control our own lives and our own selves, then we can make a difference. We can make a difference grassroots. We can do good things for other people. We can help local people. We can help, you know, donate to food banks, whatever. Help, you know, I don't know, recycle things, whatever. I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. But yeah, so my opinion's there. Strong, but also not that strong, because honestly, I don't read up so much about it. But we'll see. It's the elections a week on Sunday, and we shall see how that goes. I know how I'm voting. I've got my papers already, and I should be heading to my kids' primary school that day because that's where the elections are taking place. So thank you for watching if you've got this far. Let me know what you think about the whole polarisation of politics. How can we do anything about it? What can we do to save our planet and save the people? Or should we just leave it? I don't know. What do you think? Great to hear from you. And if you like this, then it'd be great if you could give it a little like, because that helps. And leave a comment, and if you want to subscribe, that's even better, because I do need a few more. Give me some little boosts. Alrighty, so thanks for watching, and I promise I'll talk about something nicer next time. Okay, thank you, bye, cheerio.